Okay, so now onto the serious business, and the reason that we asked you to come on Wednesday was one of the most tragic days in American history. Yesterday morning, Ethan and I came on, and I got really emotional. I just had it. I've had it with all of this nonsense, and now, how many people ended up dying? 4 or 5?
5.
5 people ended up dying. Mm-hmm. Yesterday morning, I was so beside myself. I'm just still yelling about. I thought it was 1. Mm-hmm. What do you have to say right out front about what happened Wednesday in D.C.?
Well, I saw a Twitter post that Elon Musk put out, and I'm sort of a fan of his. I haven't figured out if he's a fraud or if he's the real deal. But anyways, I do find him interesting. And if you remember that movie, The Social Network, where Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook because he was mad because he was spurned by his girlfriend, and so he created a website to compare the women of Harvard, and he got in a lot of trouble for it. So basically, the cartoon was entitled The Domino Effect, and it starts with a tiny little domino saying saying a website created to compare women at Harvard, and each domino gets bigger and bigger and bigger until the end you get insurrection at the Capitol. And the point was that when people rely on Facebook, Twitter, or an echo chamber for their news, this is what you get, right? I mean, there are people, I know many, many people that rely on Facebook, these crazy posts that you can clearly tell are fraudulent or fake, we hear the term fake news, but really are fake. And they state that as a fact, whether it's the voting machines or boxes of ballots that were found or the election was stolen. And those people believe it. They really believe it. And so they go to the Capitol to peacefully protest. Not everybody went down there with bad intentions, and certainly, redressing your grievances is part of our Constitution. But a lot of people had a lot of bad intentions, and it was awful and horrible, and something that should never be condoned. But that's the biggest problem. Is this echo chamber, and then now the flip side of this. I know I'm talking too much, but real quick, the flip side of this is that when YouTube, Facebook, Twitter shuts down people because they don't like their views or their thoughts or their ideas, that's really bad too, because now you've got these big tech companies that are sort of directing thought in the country. What really needs to happen is people got to understand that Twitter and Facebook are just Twitter and Facebook. You can't believe anything you read on there, just like the internet, where people say, I saw it on the internet. That doesn't make it true. And we have to teach Americans how to dig deeper to really understand what an issue is before you run around and decide to invade the country.
Where would
what it all comes down to.
All right. I have so many questions. We're going to run out of time.
Yeah.
Do you think the president incited the riot?
Absolutely.
What do you?
No business being down at.
Wait, answer that again. I'm sorry. Say it again.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, continue.
Okay, he has no business even going to that kind of rally. He should have he has every right to follow the legal process through. If he thinks somehow he's been cheated, the courts are the avenue to do that. He's been rejected at every court. At some point, he should have stood up in the last couple of weeks and said, listen, I lost this election fair and square. Sure, there's a certain amount of problems with every election, but it wouldn't have been enough to overturn the results. And therefore, I congratulate Joe Biden and wish him the best, and we'll work, to have a peaceful transition of power. That's what he should have done. Instead, he goes to this rally with these maniacs, and he cranks them to the next level. And the other thing is that his unbridled texting, tweeting, and Facebook posts and all that stuff, it releases the worst instincts in people. And because of that, he's fanning the flames. They had already put the sticks for the fire down in Washington, and the president showed up and poured gasoline on it and lit the match. And this is what happened, and it's awful.
I'm glad you said that, because that's how I felt. And I consumed it in reverse. So I took a nap that afternoon. I woke up, I saw the riot, and then I said, I got to go back and watch the speeches. So they're singing happy birthday to Eric Trump. Don Jr.'s up there, looks like he's drunk. He's swearing, yelling about transgender athletes or something. Rudy goes up. I don't know what happened to that guy. At one point in America, he was the most popular politician in the United States of America. And
gone. He's totally gone.
He is off the reservation. And then Trump goes up there and says his thing. But the guy who opened it, Mo Brooks, the congressman from Alabama, constantly screaming, fight, kick ass. Trump swears, which is not, I don't care about swearing, but it it was the message, the fighting and the fighting and the fighting. And they just kept drilling that into the heads of the people in attendance. And then minutes later, what do we have? A fight.
Right. And those guys, that group that was down there, you can't play around with people like that because they'll actually do it. And they believe everything what's your evidence that the election was stolen? Well, the president said so. Oh, okay. So, we know he has a hard time with the truth anyways. So come on. I think he completely lit this match and he deserves it. And there may be some criminal exposure here for him as well. I think that's why he put out that video last night where, he's hugging everybody and, no, we'll have a peaceful transition of power, blah, blah, blah. Because I think people came to him and said, hey, man, you're going to get arrested for, starting a riot, and which you can be for. So it was just awful. It's just awful. And you're the president of the United States, man. You can't act like that. You cannot act like that. And nobody has the guts to walk in that office and tell them. And when they do, he fires them.
I got emotional yesterday when I started to talk about what this means for my children. And I think not enough people are thinking about that. We need to really think about how dangerous the world is right now as it stands in terms of we need to get along with each other. If our leaders can't act responsibly with their words, then we have to.
And there's no question. Now, look, historically speaking, there have been other incidents like this, whether it was a caning of Charles Sumner or other things like that. But the difference is you didn't have people snapping selfies and putting everything up immediately on social media to crank up even more people. It gets amplified so much that these isolated incidents that have happened in the Capitol over the last 300 years, you read about it 3 days later and it's over, right? And cooler tempers prevail. But, at the end of the day, everything is so real time now. People were live Facebooking them running into the Capitol. It was just horrible. And, the president is 100% responsible for this, and there's nothing he can do to fix it, by the way. I don't see any way he can make it better except get off the stage as fast as possible.
It was all unnecessary. 10 days ago, I'm reading that he knew he had zero, even him, the way he behaves, he knew he had zero path to walking back into that White House at the end of the month. And yet he was going to fight anyway. Now, I don't know. That comes from anonymous sources. So I just said, maybe that's true. Maybe it isn't. And then we see what happens. And 5 people die. And then, last night, he does what most of us knew he was going to eventually end up doing anyway, which is say that there's going to be a peaceful transition of power. So why did 5 people have to die?
Right. And those people, with the exception of the police officer who just passed away last night, those people, many of them, they went to their death believing that this was the cause. And it's all a lie. It's all a lie. It's a total lie. That's the most frustrating thing. And look, I've met these people. I've run into them. They yell at me. They call me a rhino. They swear at me and stuff like that. And I'm like, look, I'm what a Republican, I believe, should be. Fiscally conservative. I am a social libertarian. I don't want to be in your bedroom. I don't want to be in your business. Just do your thing, have fun, and be safe, And that's what wins elections, guys. That's why I get reelected all the time. You are alienating 2/3 of this country by your actions, your words, your comments. And that's not how we bring people together. But they believe that stuff. They're true believers, and this is the result of that. And the president has a responsibility to lead them in a direction that says, guys, we lost.